Okay, so what we're going to learn today is the last part of factoring by grouping. Okay, but it's actually a trick in terms of dealing with opposites that you will use not just in factoring by grouping, but you will use it in factoring in general throughout your math career, right? Through Algebra 1, Algebra 2, probably not geometry, but maybe, possibly. But definitely pre-calculus, definitely calculus. This trick I'm going to teach you spans all those categories, those different math disciplines. So, if I gave you a problem like this, 2x squared, 2x squared. Let me think about this for 1 second. Do I do this? Okay. Well, whatever. 6x minus 6x plus 12 minus 4x. Write that down. We're not going to combine like terms in this case. Maybe, you know what, let's just change one thing. Let's make this x cubed so that so there's not, and that x squared, okay? So I changed that. So it's 2x cubed minus 6x squared plus 12 minus 4x. Because I just don't want it to. So, again, how many terms do you have? 4 terms. So what do you always think when you have 4 terms and you're asked to factor them? Well, yeah, you're going to factor by grouping. You're going to group them into groups of 2, right? Right? So I'm going to do these 2 first, and then I'm going to do these 2. So my greatest common factor, again, how do I figure it out? I first look at the numbers. The numbers are 2 and 6. What goes into both of those? 2, right? All right, now how do I figure out what my greatest common factor is with the variables? Teddy. I have an x cubed and I have an x squared. That's it. Those are the only 2 options. I always choose the one that goes into both of them. I can't get an x cubed out of an x squared. I can get an x squared out into, I could take that away from this and that away from that. It's always the one with the smaller x1, right? So 2x squared, parenthesis, and then what do I have? I've got x minus 3, right? Yes? Plus, now what can I take out of 12 and 4? 4, right? So I'm going to take plus 4, and I'm going to subtract, I'm going to factor that out. Now I've got 3 minus x. Okay, now what do I do? What do you see? What's the problem? They're not blobs, but are they close to blobs? What's the difference? They're opposites. Right, they're opposites. Don't you love to say that word? Opposites. Opposites. It's a great word. Opposites. All right, so yeah, they're opposites. Now the question is, let's think about, now we're going to take a little intermission here for a second, a little advertisement, okay? All right, we're going to say, what is an opposite? If I had 4, what is the opposite of 4?
5.
Negative 4. How did you get that? You just multiplied it by negative 1. So if I multiply negative 4 times negative 1, I would get negative 4, which is its opposite.
Yeah.
You agree with me? So what's the opposite of 25? Multiply by negative 1, I'd get negative 25. Not equals, but the opposite is negative 25. Okay, what if it was what if it is 2 minus x? What is the opposite? The only way to know is to multiply it by negative 1. Negative 1, right? So negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 times negative x is positive x. Or if I moved it using what property? Commutative property. I could write it as x minus 2. Interesting. 2 minus x, the opposite of 2 minus x is x minus 2. Okay? Now if it was 2 plus x, then it would be x plus 2. Right? Oh wait, no, it would be negative x minus 2. But in this case, because one of them's positive, one of them's negative, all they're gonna do is swap positions when you multiply by -1. So now how do we use that over here? I have two things that are almost blobs. They're opposites, right? And I could quickly turn one of those opposites into the same blob by doing what's called this. It's called factoring out a -1. Put that in parentheses. Factoring out a -1. That is the method I'm going to use. So I personally like x minus 3 better than 3 minus x. So I'm going to keep it that way. I'm going to change this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rewrite it, 2x squared, x minus 3. Now instead of plus 4, I'm actually going to factor out a -1. Okay? So by factoring out a -1, it's basically 4 times -1 and then flipping that. But what's 4 times -1? Minus 4. So I'm going to put -4. All I'm doing is changing the sign. And now in here, whatever this times this is, it's got to equal this. I'm sorry, what am I saying? By doing this negative, I'm going to change the signs in everything inside here. Does that make sense? Because right now it's positive 4 times 3. That would be positive 12, right? Now I've got -4 times -3. That would be positive 12, right? So those are, you see how those are the same? You guys see that? Am I in your way? Sorry. Do you see how positive 4 times positive 3 is the same thing as -4 times -3? They both equal positive 12, right? Is that right? See what I mean? And then here, if I did -4 times what is equal to -4x? Positive x, right? -4 times -3 is the same as positive 4 times positive 3. -4 times positive x is -4x. Positive 4 times -x is -4x. So I get the same thing. So look, that looks different, but really they're the same thing. I'm going to actually just rewrite it in the way it is, x minus 3. So by just changing this sign here, right, I was able to flip this and turn this into its opposite. Does that make sense? That's the equivalent of factoring out a -1. That's what it's called. I actually decided to not only factor out a 4, but factor out a -1. So 4 times -1 is -4. And so I factored out. The only thing that changed is I just flipped this. That becomes negative, that becomes positive. So I put the positive first and the negative second. Right? So now I have my blob. So now I have x minus 3 times, I'm going to factor out that. So when I factor out the x minus 3 out of this, I get 2x squared. And out of this, I get a -4. And I'm done. So I'll do one more with you guys. And maybe tomorrow you'll see an example of how you'd use this in another type of an algebraic situation. These are actually fun. For me, I like them. So 6x cubed, it's not the same one, right? 6x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4 minus 8x. Okay, so again, I notice I'm going to do it in groups because I have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's my 2 groups. I'm going to take a 3 out of both of these and an x squared, the smaller x. So 3x squared, parenthesis, that gives me 2x. I realize I'm always covering it up for you guys. I'm sorry. Maybe if I do this.
Yeah.
3x squared, am I right? Times 2x, right? Would give me 6x squared. Yes. Minus 1. Am I right? 3x squared times 1 is 3x squared. And then plus, now I have 4 goes into both of those. Parentheses, I have 1 minus 2x. Oh, they're not blobs, but they're opposites. Yes, they're opposites. So instead of leaving it like this, I can go further. I could say 3x squared parenthesis 2x minus 1. I'm just copying this again because that's what I'm going to keep. I'm going to try to turn this into 2x minus 1. I'm going to factor out a negative 1. So instead of positive 4, I'm going to make it negative 4. And then I'm just going to make the negative 2x positive 2x. I'll write that first. And the positive 1, negative 1. And now look, I have blobs. So now I can go my last step. 2x minus 1. Factor that out. I've got 3x squared minus 4. And that's my answer. Make sense? Are they in your notes? Did you finish that one? Awesome. Okay, so homework. You guys can get started now. By the way, it's really important. I hope you guys know, when you do homework, you do never, ever, ever copy from somebody. You never just copy the answers, right? That will not help you. You might as well learn now. That will not help you. You have to do the work yourself. If you have a question, ask it. That's why you have friends here and I allow you to work together. But if I ever see anybody copying, just like big mistake. That is plagiarism. It is huge. It's huge. Anybody that gets caught really will regret it, guaranteed. So don't do that. Please don't do that. So this is the homework. Okay. Yes. So you guys can get started right away. Just practice. Oh shoot! I have to turn that off.